Most Sunday mornings, you will find me sitting right here in this spot at one point or another during our worship. That's because I normally am the one delivering what we call the children's chat, our sermon. And I get the kids all gathered around, and I try to get them involved, and I ask them questions, and they get them responding to what I'm talking about. And some are really into it, and some are a little cautious. And I understand that. Because the biggest fear in any kid's life as they get older is getting caught in public saying or doing the wrong thing. And that's probably something that we go through all of our lives. Now, we know that when we do something wrong, we can be forgiven. But it's really hard for us to forget our own mistakes. We keep replaying them in our heads. It's a video going over and over and over again. But a long, long time ago, the prophet Jeremiah told us that we really don't have to worry about that because God has decided not to worry about that. Jeremiah said, "The day is surely coming, says the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. It will not be like the covenant that I made with their ancestors when I took them out of the land of Egypt, a covenant that they broke, even though I was their husband, says the Lord. But this is the covenant I will make with them. After those days, says the Lord, I will write my law within them. I will put it in their hearts. I will be their God, and they will be my people. And no longer will they teach one another or say to each other, 'Know the Lord,' for they all will know me. And I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sin no more." You won't see me here on Sundays, but you will find my friend Sriram. Sriram's an incredible drummer, and usually, if he knew I were touching these, he'd probably get angry with me. About 6 months ago, he came into practice, and he was complaining of headaches and double vision, and the exams that he went through discovered a tumor in his head. Well, they immediately got him into the hospital, and they performed a very delicate surgery, and they took the tumor out through a nasal cavity. We were there with him, with his wife, with his kids. We were running back and forth from here to Chicago. And I remember driving down to Indianapolis on the day that he was supposed to come home. And on my way home, I called to see how he was doing. And I found out that just as they got back here to Munster, he began to bleed, and they turned around and took him back to the hospital. And I thought to myself, how long has this got to go on? When's this guy going to get a break? And it was about that time that this story from Matthew's Gospel really had meaning for me. Then Jesus told them a parable about the need to pray always and never give up hope. He said, in a certain city there lived a judge that neither feared God nor respected people. And in that same city there lived a widow who came to him day after day saying, "Give me justice against my opponent." Well, at first he refused, but later he said to himself, "Even though I neither feared God nor respect people, yet because this woman keeps bothering me, I will grant her request so that she doesn't wear me out with her constant coming." And then Jesus said to them, "Did you hear what that unjust judge said? And will not God grant the calls of his chosen ones who cry out to him day and night? Will he long delay giving them justice? I tell you, he will grant them justice, and quickly. But when the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on earth?" Sriram's still here playing. He'll find faith right here at this seat. I hope he finds it with me too. Do you remember that old hymn? I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back, no turning back. Well, many of us don't even remember actually making that decision. If you're like me and you grew up in a church community, it never was a question. But at some point, I think, in your life, you do have to make that decision. And when you make it, maybe you think, great, I've got my act together. And maybe you do. But having your act together and following Jesus is not necessarily the same thing as everything's going to be smooth sailing. Well, Mark knew that, and he talked about it in the 4th chapter of his gospel. He said that same day, when it was evening, Jesus said to them, "Let us go across to the other side of the sea." And so they left the crowd behind them, and they took him in their boat, just as he was. And there were other boats with them. And then a great storm of wind came up, and the waves began lapping against the boat and coming in, so that they were filling it up. And Jesus was in the stern, asleep on a cushion. And they woke him up and they said, "Teacher, don't you care we're going to die?" And Jesus woke up and he rebuked the sea. And he said to the wind, "Peace, be still." And the wind stopped. And there was a great calm on the sea. And Jesus said to them, "Why were you afraid? Don't you have any faith?" And they were filled with awe, and they said one to the other, "What manner of man is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him?" What manner of man is this? It's the question we have to keep asking ourselves. Amen.